It started like any normal morning. I made breakfast, kissed my husband goodbye, and told him I love him. Little did I know, this would be the last time I'd see him as a free man. Just a few hours later, my world came crashing down. Police raided our house. My heart dropped. No warning. No explanation. They arrested him. My husband, my best friend, was being dragged away in handcuffs, and I couldn't understand why. The police said they had a tip. A tip about something he supposedly did. But no one could tell me what. I thought it was a mistake. A misunderstanding. But the truth was much darker. The more I dug, the more I realized this wasn't a mistake. They weren't after the right person. The police had made a terrible mistake, and I was the only one who knew. I went to the station, demanding answers. What's he being charged with? I asked. The detective just looked at me, silent. The tension in the air was thick. Finally, he said, "We can't say. It's part of the investigation." What did that even mean? I was getting nowhere. Days turned into weeks. No details. No real evidence. Just cryptic statements and vague assurances. But I wasn't going to give up. I knew my husband. He was innocent. There had to be something I could do. So I started asking questions. I talked to his coworkers. I spoke to people who lived in our neighborhood. I combed through every scrap of information I could find. Then something strange happened. I found a witness. A woman. She lived across the street and claimed she saw everything the night of his arrest. She said she had seen a man leave our house before the police arrived. She even described him in detail. But here's the twist. It wasn't my husband. The man she described was nothing like him. My blood ran cold. Could it be? Had someone set him up? I couldn't ignore it. I took the woman's statement to the police. They brushed me off. "It's not relevant," they told me. "It doesn't change anything." But I knew it changed everything. Something wasn't adding up. Why wouldn't they take this seriously? Was it because it didn't fit their narrative? Something was wrong, and I was getting closer to the truth. That's when I uncovered the biggest bombshell yet. The police had surveillance footage from the night of his arrest. The footage they'd been holding back. They played it for me, and I couldn't believe my eyes. My husband was in the video at first, but then the camera cut out. What happened in that gap? Why was there a break in the footage right after the man left the house? It was all starting to feel too planned, too convenient. I demanded to see the full, unedited footage, but the police said it was classified. They wouldn't release it. It was clear now. They were hiding something. I could feel it in my gut, but just when I thought I was getting close, things got weirder. I received an anonymous letter in the mail. It was simple. A few lines, written in a shaky hand. They're framing him. Looking to the boss. Who was the boss? What boss? My head was spinning. I thought about it for days. Then it hit me. My husband had recently been involved in a legal battle with his former employer. Could it be that his boss was involved in all of this? Was this some twisted revenge? I couldn't ignore it. I went to his workplace, hoping to find something, anything, that would give me a clue. I didn't expect what happened next. As soon as I walked through the door, the security guard told me that the building had burned down overnight. What? How? The fire department said it was arson. Someone had set the place on fire. The entire office was gone, destroyed. But there was something even stranger. The night before the fire, my husband's boss had made a huge cash withdrawal from his personal account. Was it connected? I had to find out. But time was running out. Every day my husband stayed behind bars. The more the case against him seemed to solidify. Yet, there was no hard evidence. Nothing that tied him to the crime they were accusing him of. That's when I got the call. A woman who claimed to be a former employee of my husband's boss reached out. She had worked there for years and knew things. She said the boss had been involved in shady business deals, money laundering, fraud. I had no idea how deep this went. But the most chilling part of what she said was this. You don't know who you're dealing with. The police are covering for him. She hung up before I could ask more. What was going on? Was this really a case of police corruption? Had the entire system been manipulated to put my husband behind bars? I had no answers. But what I did know was that I couldn't trust anyone. The police, the justice system, everything felt like it was turning against me. The pieces of the puzzle weren't fitting together. It was like someone was pulling strings from behind the scenes, and I was about to uncover something I wasn't ready for. So I started to dig even deeper. I went back to the police station, pushing harder than before. I demanded to speak with someone higher up, someone who could give me answers. But when I walked into that room, something felt off. The officer I spoke with wasn't the same man who had been handling the case. He was new, and there was a strange, almost familiar look in his eyes. He smiled at me. "You're getting close, aren't you?" he said, his voice cold. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. This wasn't just a case of a mistake. This was something more sinister, and I was in the middle of it. But then, before I could ask another question, the door slammed open. A man in a suit stepped in. He was someone I'd never seen before. "You need to stop," he said. "You're in over your head." His warning chilled me to the bone. Who was he? Why was he so sure I was on the right track? And then, just like that, the lights in the building went out. Everything went dark. I was trapped, alone. What did this mean? What were they hiding? I couldn't stop now. Not when I was this close. But what if this was a warning? I had no idea who to trust anymore. The clock was ticking, and with every moment that passed, I felt the walls closing in. What was really going on? And could I really fight for my husband's freedom, or was I in over my head? The truth was just beyond my reach, and I wasn't sure I was ready for what I might find next. The lights went out. Complete darkness. My heart was pounding, and I couldn't even hear myself think. I felt the panic setting in. Where was I? What was happening? And why had they just shut off the power? My fingers fumbled in the blackness. I had to get out. Fast. The door slammed open again and I froze. The man in the suit, who had warned me to stop, was back. But this time, something was different. His face was no longer calm. It was tight with fear. "You need to leave. Now," he hissed, grabbing my arm. I yanked away, but he wasn't letting go. "You have no idea what you're messing with," he said, his voice trembling. The fear in his eyes? It wasn't for me. It was for himself. That's when it hit me. Whatever was going on, this was bigger than I ever imagined. The man wasn't trying to intimidate me. He was trying to get me to stop because he was afraid. And it clicked. There was something at the very top of this investigation. Something corrupt. Something that went beyond my husband's case. But what? Just as I was about to shout for help, the lights flickered back on. The man in the suit stepped back into the shadows, disappearing like he had never been there. And then I heard it, a faint click. The door behind me swung open and a figure stepped in. A cop, but not just any cop. It was Detective Hayes, the lead investigator on my husband's case. His eyes locked onto mine, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of guilt in them. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. I was speechless. How was this happening? Was Hayes involved? Was he one of the bad guys? Was he trying to cover something up? What's going on? I demanded, "Why is this happening to my husband?" He didn't answer at first, and for a moment, I thought he might walk away. But then, he leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a barely audible whisper. "I didn't want you to know, but now I can't stop you. They'll find out eventually." I stood frozen, waiting for him to speak again. Hayes glanced around, like he was checking if anyone else could hear. "Your husband is being framed. The police aren't just involved. They're in on it. This goes way higher than you think." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "There's a reason they've kept you in the dark. There's a reason they won't let you see the full footage. They're hiding something." But the witness, the one who said it wasn't my husband, I almost shouted. Hayes glanced nervously at the door, then back to me. "They already took care of her." I felt my stomach drop. "They took care of her? What are you saying?" I whispered, voice shaking. Hayes swallowed hard, as if making the decision to speak was ripping him apart. "The witness? She was never real. They planted her there to make you think you were onto something. But you were already too close to the truth." I was reeling. "Planted? The truth is, The police have been involved in a huge cover-up. It's not just about your husband. It's about what he stumbled onto. A scheme, a conspiracy. And your husband, he was right in the middle of it. What scheme? I asked, barely able to breathe. Money laundering, corporate fraud, and more. The higher-ups were using their power to conceal everything. Your husband's old boss, he was their inside man. I was shaken. I knew my husband had issues with his former employer, but this was a whole other level. Hayes looked behind him again, eyes wild. I shouldn't be telling you this. I'm not supposed to. Why are you? I asked, desperate for answers. Because they made a mistake. They underestimated you. And now they got to shut you down. My mind was spinning. This was no longer just about my husband. This was about a system rigged to protect those at the top. But Hayes wasn't finished. He grabbed my arm, his grip tight. "There's more," he whispered. "I didn't just work the case. I've been part of this for years." My jaw dropped. What was he saying? What do you mean? I was working for them. The same people who put your husband away. I tried to back out, but they won't let me. Hayes's eyes darted around, like he feared someone might walk in any second. There's only one way to stop this. You have to go public. Expose the entire operation. And what happens to you? I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. "I'm already dead," he muttered. "I was just hoping to save you, but now it's too late. They know you're digging too deep." Just as I was about to say something, the door slammed open again. This time, a group of officers entered the room. They were the same ones from my husband's arrest. But now they were different. They weren't here to protect anyone. They were here to silence me. "You need to come with us," one of them said, stepping toward me. Hayes lunged in front of me, blocking my path. "Get out of the way," the officer growled. "You're not taking her." For a second, it was a standoff. Hayes and the officers, all staring each other down. Then, in a split second, Hayes shoved me toward the exit. "Go!" he shouted. "Get out of here. Find the truth." I turned and ran, heart racing. I couldn't breathe. I was in way over my head. The officers chased me, but I managed to slip out of the station. The world outside felt like a war zone, and I was standing in the middle of it. I had no idea who to trust anymore. Hayes had warned me. They were after me now. The truth was out there, but getting it would be more dangerous than I ever imagined. What did Hayes mean by expose it? Could I really take on this corrupt system? Or was I just one more person they'd silenced to protect their empire? As I ran, I could hear sirens in the distance. The clock was ticking, and every second that passed, I knew the walls were closing in. I didn't know how this would end, but I wasn't backing down. I couldn't. But the real question was, who would make it out alive? Stay tuned for more